I have talked to lay apostles before about whispers from the cross. And I'm going to mention that again because this is such an important thing for us to remember in our service. Now, every lover of Jesus Christ will find himself or herself at the foot of the cross. That's where our love for Jesus takes us. And from the cross, the Lord can whisper into our soul. And Jesus whispers words of love and encouragement. He whispers consolation and truth. He urges us to go forward in holiness. He urges us to obedience to the church. Jesus urges us to promote unity in our families, our workplaces, our societies, and of course in our church. Jesus calms us. He lets us feel loved. We know we're loved when we're with Jesus. Okay, so we have that on that side. Now, let's juxtapose that with whispers from hell, because the enemy also whispers to us. And during Lent, I was keenly aware that Jesus was tempted. And I thought about the Lord's 40 days of temptation in the desert. Imagine what that must have been like. 40 days of listening to the enemy's distortions. Where Jesus was good, the enemy mistrusted his motives, accused him of this, accused him of that. And so then I became very interested in the concept, and I began to go to the lay apostles around me and ask them. I did a private survey. I said, where are you being tempted today? One apostle said, I'm not being tempted today. It's a pretty good day. Satan's leaving me alone. I said, really? That's interesting. You're a very holy apostle. I'm surprised that Satan would pack up and go home. So I said, are you sure? She thought about it for a minute. She said, I'm pretty good. Yeah. I said, nothing's bothering you? She thought about it, and then she said, oh, indigestion. Satan is tempting me with indigestion. And I said, wow, really? I didn't expect that for an answer. And she said, yes, last night I had indigestion. She said, but I wasn't satisfied that this was just indigestion. I began to be sure it was cancer. And I thought, oh great, now I have cancer of the esophagus. And she said, now I'm probably going to die. How long do people die? How soon do they die? Could be 3 to 6 months. What will happen to my children, my family? I don't have my affairs in order. She stayed up half the night worrying about the cancer that she didn't have. She was very correct. Satan was tempting her with indigestion. Now, I said, okay, well, that's excellent identification of the temptation source. Is there anything else he's tempting you with? Not really. I said, okay, is anyone annoying you or getting on your nerves? She said, oh, Maeve. Maeve is getting on my nerves. Do you know what Maeve said to me? I said, no, what did Maeve say to you? Maeve said this and that and the other thing. What do you think she meant by that? She said, this was annoying me so badly. Now, the beautiful part was I was able to say to her, you're getting this wrong. Maeve didn't say that. She meant this because I happened to be involved in this conversation. So this was becoming like sport at this point. I said, so that was, she goes, well, look at that. Now, I was so mad at her. And here, she hadn't even done anything. She was tempted against somebody with no foundation. Okay, so that was 2. So I said, anything else? Nope. I said, okay, how's your prayer life going? Oh, she said, my prayer life is a disaster. What prayer life? She said, I can barely get down to church. When I am in church, she said, I can't think straight. She said, my prayers are distracted. I can't concentrate on the Lord during the holy hour. She said, I might as well be in the grocery store. I can't focus at all on Christ. And I said, yeah, that happens. And she said, well, I'm a disgrace. I shouldn't even go pray because I think Jesus just gets mad at me. She said, I'm sure he thinks, oh, here she comes. She thinks she's holy. She's not holy. I mean, she was really feeling a low prayer self-esteem. How many have experienced that? So I said, I think that you're doing fine. I asked her, have you changed your prayer commitments? No, she hadn't changed them. She said, oh no, I go, but I'm not doing well. She was doing beautifully, but she was being tempted. Okay, the last thing I said was, okay, now there's anything else? She says, no. I said, all right, there's no one you haven't forgiven, anyone you're mad at from your past? Well, the floodgates opened. Out rushed past wounds and past pain. And she was so tempted to bitterness. And as she spoke, she began to cry. And she examined how she had been hurt by someone a long time ago. And in the speaking of it, she understood that there was a wound. She didn't even know that she had this wound, but she was being tempted to bitterness. So what do we have there? Let's see. Satan was tempting her with fear of the future, anger and hurt over a complete misunderstanding, discouragement about her spiritual condition, which was just fine, and past wounds. These were all Satan's attempts to disturb her peace. We are apostles of Jesus Christ, the returning King. Peace is available to us. Peace is necessary for us to serve. But we can't treat peace like a picture on the mantle. Every once in a while we glance at it. We have to fight for peace. We have to work and strive for peace. We have to learn to identify the signs in ourselves and in each other that something has snatched our peace. And then we have to say, if I'm not at peace, I'm a hazard. I speak for myself. If my peace is gone, I can be dangerous to the Lord's plan. Father Darris spoke so beautifully in his homily, didn't he? And what he said was that it was important for him to be plugged in to Christ in order to do the right thing as a priest. And so he said to the Lord, Lord, it didn't go well last time. I really need you to be in on this. And then it went beautifully. I want you to look for your temptations. I want everybody today, during the holy hour, to say, show me, Jesus, where I'm being tempted. Illuminate the temptation for me so that I'm not a risk to your plan. Do you understand what I mean? You do. Oh, I asked another woman, I said, where are you being tempted? Are you being tempted about your spiritual condition? And she said, no, I am not. I went to confession and the priest said, I'm doing just fine. He told me that I needed to be more patient with myself. So she said, so that's what I'm doing. I'm being patient with myself and I believe him that I'm doing fine. Now, wasn't that beautiful? I thought that confidence in her, the spiritual direction of the priest, was beautiful. She took what the priest offered from Christ and she found a home in her soul and she said, I'm not going there. I'm going to be at peace with myself. Now, there are many types of temptation. Perhaps the enemy wants you to think that your service is not important or that you're irrelevant to the coming of God's kingdom. Perhaps he whispers ugly things to you about the people around you. Perhaps he whispers things to you about them, like saying, okay, they don't like you, they don't respect you. You're not getting what you deserve. You should, he inspires us to bitterness, doesn't he? Maybe he whispers, well, there's two types, like I say. Okay, sometimes the enemy will say, you're not good enough. Your contribution is invaluable. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not important. And then he can go on the flip side and he can say, you're more important than everybody else. Nobody else really counts, just you. You're holier than everybody else. Nobody else is really holy, just you. Of the two, sometimes what the enemy can do is whisper to you. He'll shine a flashlight on the flaws of the people around you. Maybe you'll offer that up and you'll get on with it. And then he'll hit the floodlights on your husband or wife or someone close to you. Look how flawed they are. And then you'll get caught up in those flaws. And instead of looking at the beauty of the souls around you, you'll get tempted to focus on their flaws. And then the enemy's plan for destruction can proceed. If you reverence the people around you which one of us is holy enough? If we were holy enough, we'd be dead. God would say, oh, this one's perfect. Up she comes. I guess you're still here with me. I guess holiness is still a joint project for us. So let's make it a priority. Jesus can do magnificent things when we concentrate on holiness. Now, it's so important to have the fellowship because the enemy, when he really wants to work on us, he gets us off alone, doesn't he? He isolates us, and in that isolation, we are vulnerable. Sometimes we just have to end up in a corner covering our heads. That's when you need help. That's when you need the objectivity of the people around you. And that's when you need confession. There's no place like confession to get distortions shattered. Like that woman who said, hey, no, I'm not discouraged. The priest told me I was doing okay, and I believe him. He shattered the distortion that she wasn't good enough. She allowed him to do that. She let that take root in her. So, because we agree that we're all imperfect, tomorrow when we wake up, and today for the rest of the day, and for every day of the rest of our lives, let's expect the people around us to make mistakes. Let's count on it. Let's start the day saying, hey, everybody around me is probably going to get it wrong somewhere today. And I'll get to be a participant in that. How will I respond to the mistakes and the flaws and the failures of the people around me? I guess that's up to me. But if I see it coming, I'll do better than if it just perpetually surprises me that they're not perfect. People sometimes are perpetually disappointed in humanity. And I know the Lord says somewhere in the volumes, people aren't perfect. He doesn't expect perfection, and we can't expect perfection. You know what would be a nice decision for lay apostles? Is to say, okay, I'm going to get to witness mistakes in the people around me. I'm going to be the best companion for them when they make mistakes. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be a distraction. I'm going to urge them to greater holiness if it's necessary. I'm going to console them by saying, hey, you think that's bad. Here's my mistakes. A woman recently I got a document from a medical place. And like 15 minutes later, there came another document that said, oh, dear God, we have just emailed. It didn't really say, oh, dear God, but it said, we apologize profusely for sending our whole patient list to the 30,000 patients that we have. Her name, I won't say her name because, who knows. Well, I read this and I started laughing. I thought, oh my God, help them. Because right now in their organization, can you imagine the phone calls being made? The lawyers being consulted? The name of the woman who made this mistake was at the bottom of her incredible apology. She said, I am so sorry. I don't even know what to say, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote her back a letter. I don't know her. She doesn't know me. But I hit reply and I wrote her back a letter. I said, hopefully, like everyone has bigger problems than this. This is just not a big deal. I don't care who the other patients are. You're a medical facility. Everyone has medical issues. This is not like a psychiatric hospital or something, It was so funny. She wrote me back this letter that would break your heart. She said, I can never tell you how grateful I was to get your letter. She said, I was in despair, and your letter came, and it was so funny and so encouraging. And she said, thank you for giving me perspective. Here's the point. I did have bigger problems on that day. My problems were huge to me. This was the least of my problems. But I thought, for this poor little thing, this is massive. She'll probably get fired. Possibly she'll lose her job. Maybe they'll get sued. Maybe the whole hospital will have to close. You know what I'm saying? And it was my little opportunity to make it a little smaller for her. So it's good when we have opportunities to help others through their mistakes.